I've always been an avid traveler, exploring the world through the unique lens of local Airbnbs. This particular journey led me to a quaint, seemingly peaceful town. The Airbnb I booked was a charming old house set apart from the neighbors, surrounded by dense woods. The host, Mr. Thompson, was an elderly, reclusive man who communicated solely through messages, never meeting in person. Upon arrival, the house, with its creaking wooden floors and antique decor, exuded a peculiar yet intriguing aura. The first night passed uneventfully, but I couldn't shake off a feeling of being watched. I attributed this to the unfamiliar surroundings and jet lag. The next day, I discovered a locked door in the hallway. Curious, I messaged Mr. Thompson about it. He dismissed it as a storage room, off limits to guests. That night, things took a chilling turn. I woke to the sound of faint whispers and footsteps. Thinking it was a burglar, I searched the house, finding nothing amiss, yet the sense of an unseen presence grew stronger. In the following days, items began to move inexplicably. A book I left on the coffee table would be found on the kitchen counter. My shoes, neatly arranged by the door, were scattered. I started documenting these occurrences, trying to rationalize them as forgetfulness on my part. Then, one night, the terror escalated. I woke to a chilling sensation, feeling a weight at the foot of my bed, as if someone was sitting there. Paralyzed with fear, I lay still, the room oppressively silent. As dawn broke, the weight lifted, and I was alone again. Determined to uncover the truth, I decided to stay up the next night. Armed with a flashlight and my phone, I waited. As the clock struck midnight, the whispers returned, echoing through the halls. I followed the sound, leading me to the locked door. The whispers grew louder, more urgent. In a moment of reckless bravery, I picked the lock and swung the door open. The room was a shrine to surveillance screens, showing live feeds from hidden cameras in every room, including the one I slept in. The realization hit me like a ton of bricks. Mr. Thompson had been watching me all along, manipulating my environment to instill fear. Horrified, I gathered my belongings and fled the house, reporting Mr. Thompson to the authorities. As I left the town, I couldn't help but feel the lingering gaze of unseen eyes upon me. The experience forever changed the way I view the sanctity of personal space and the trust we place in strangers. The true horror I realized lies not in the supernatural, but in the depths of human obsession and invasion of privacy. My love for off-the-beaten-path travel led me to a remote Airbnb. Nestled in a secluded village, the house was a renovated cottage, steeped in history, with a charming, rustic allure. The host, a young woman named Eliza, was warm and welcoming, though she seemed overly eager to leave as soon as I arrived. The first few days were serene, filled with long walks and quaint tranquility of village life. However, the house with its thick stone walls and heavy wooden doors had an air of secrecy. At night, the silence was so profound it felt almost suffocating. One evening, as I settled into bed, I noticed a faint scratching sound coming from behind the wall. Thinking it might be a rodent, I tried to ignore it, but the sound persisted night after night, growing in intensity as if something or someone was clawing from within. Curiosity and unease mounting, I examined the wall closely, discovering a small, almost imperceptible seam. It was a hidden door, masterfully concealed. I hesitated, but my curiosity won over. Pushing the door open, I found a narrow, dark passageway leading to another part of the house. With nothing but my phone's flashlight, I navigated the passage, which ended in a small hidden room. The sight that greeted me was chilling. The room was filled with personal belongings, clothes, photographs, diaries, all belonging to different people. The dates on the items spanned decades. I quickly realized these were belongings of previous guests. My heart raced as I pieced together the horrifying truth. The cottage was not just a rental, it was a trap, meticulously set up by Eliza to lure unsuspecting travelers. The scratching sound was likely her way of instilling fear, ensuring guests discovered this hidden room. Panicked, I rushed back to my room, intending to leave at first light. That night, I barely slept, jumping at every creak and groan of the old house. As dawn broke, I hurriedly packed, only to find the front door locked from the outside. I was trapped. Using my phone, I sent out a distress message and searched for another exit. Eventually, I found a small, overlooked window in the kitchen, just big enough to squeeze through. I escaped, leaving the village as quickly as I could. The police later informed me that Eliza had been arrested. The cottage was a facade for her twisted game, collecting souvenirs from her guests, keeping part of them forever within those silent walls. The experience left me shaken, a haunting reminder of the darkness that can lurk behind the facade of hospitality. I arrived at a secluded Airbnb perched on the edge of towering sea cliffs. Drawn by his isolation and stunning ocean views, the host, a rugged, taciturn man named Cole, briefly showed me around the compact, weather-beaten cabin before hurriedly leaving. The first evening passed peacefully, the sound of waves a constant soothing presence. However, as darkness enveloped the cabin, an unsettling feeling crept over me. I heard faint, inexplicable noises, not just the ocean, but something else, like distant cries muffled by the wind. The next morning, I ventured along the cliff path, curious about the cries. As I neared a particular spot, the ground gave way beneath me. I barely clung to the edge, pulling myself up to safety. Shaken, I noticed an old rusted ladder nearby descending into the hidden cove. Compelled by a mix of fear and curiosity, I descended. The cove was eerily quiet, the cliffs towering ominously above. There, I discovered a series of small caves, and within one, a shocking scene. Several makeshift cages containing remains of what looked like previous guests, their belongings scattered around. I realized then that the cries were warnings, echoes of the victims. Cole was luring guests to this treacherous spot for some horrifying purpose. Heart pounding, I scrambled back up the ladder only to find Cole waiting, a cold, menacing look in his eyes. He lunged at me, but I dodged, sprinting back to the cabin. Cole was close behind, a deadly chase along the cliff's edge. I reached the cabin and locked myself in, frantically searching for my phone to call for help. As Cole battered against the door, the cabin's walls seemed to close in on me. The pounding mixed with the echo of waves and cries from the cove, creating a cacophony of terror. In a desperate bid, I escaped through a back window, running into the night. I didn't stop until I reached the nearest town, alerting the authorities. They apprehended Cole, uncovering a horrifying pattern of his preying on lone travelers. The cliffs, once a symbol of natural beauty, now stood as a haunting reminder of the hidden dangers lurking in remote places, where the cries of the past are forever etched into the echoing winds. Seeking a peaceful retreat, I booked an Airbnb at a remote farmhouse nestled among sprawling orchards in a quiet valley. The host introduced to me as Silas was a rugged, seemingly affable man who claimed to be managing the property for the owners away on a trip. The farmhouse exuded a rustic charm, enveloped by an air of calm. However, as night descended, the atmosphere shifted ominously. Unsettling noises pierced the stillness, and the feeling of being watched crept over me. On my second night, curiosity led me to explore the barn after hearing strange movements. Inside, I discovered what appeared to be a makeshift living area, complete with personal items suggesting someone other than Silas had recently inhabited it. The next day, while wandering through the orchard, I came across an area blocked off with barbed wire. Starkly contrasting the pastoral beauty of the surroundings, a foul metallic odor emanated from the ground. Digging through the loose earth, I uncovered a chilling discovery, a collection of personal belongings, each marked with cryptic symbols buried in shallow graves. Alarmed, I confronted Silas. His demeanor darkened as he confessed the truth. The real owners of the farmhouse were among the buried victims of his delusional belief that sacrifice would bring prosperity to the orchard. I attempted to flee, but Silas, driven by a twisted sense of purpose, pursued me through the orchard with a sickle in hand. The trees, once a symbol of tranquility, now formed a sinister maze, their branches seeming to grasp at me as I navigate the labyrinth. In a desperate bid for survival, I managed to evade Silas, hiding among the dense foliage. I waited, heart pounding, as his search grew more frantic. Eventually, his steps receded and the orchard fell silent. Using the cover of darkness, I made my escape, stumbling onto a road by dawn. The first person I encountered, a local farmer, listened to my story with growing horror. He revealed a chilling detail. Silas was a drifter known in the area for his unsettling behavior, and the farmhouse had been unoccupied for years. I reported my experience to the authorities, but despite a thorough search, Silas was never found. Rumors circulated that he still roamed the orchards, a specter haunting the land. The farmhouse was left abandoned, a stark reminder of the horrors that unfolded within its walls, and the shadow of the unhinged Silas forever a part of its history.